Okay, first of all, I know the history behind the WNBA. I know that both of those cities have had teams before and they got us where we're at, so I'm thankful for.
Sophie Cunningham just delivered the moment that completely shook the WNBA, and the fallout from her confrontation with Breanna Stewart is now dominating every corner of the basketball world. What was supposed to be a calm preseason tune-up between the Indiana Fever and the New York Liberty instantly transformed into one of the most emotionally charged scenes of the season after Cunningham went crashing to the floor clutching her ribs following a controversial elbow from Stewart. The energy inside the arena changed immediately. Fans went silent, benches stood up, and suddenly everybody in the building understood this was no longer just another preseason possession. On the replay, the moment looked brutal. Cunningham had already begun rotating back toward transition when Stewart's elbow drove through with enough force to send her to the hardwood gasping for air. The sound of the collision alone made the clip go viral within minutes, but what happened next is what truly exploded the story across the internet. Instead of heading to the bench or accepting help from trainers, Cunningham slowly stood up, wrapped one arm around her ribs, and walked directly toward Stewart with an intensity that stunned everyone watching. There was no hesitation, no teammate pulling her away, and no attempt to calm the situation before it escalated. She got face-to-face with one of the league's biggest stars and unleashed a fiery confrontation right in front of thousands of fans and countless cameras. Stewart, usually calm and unshaken under pressure, reportedly backed away while officials rushed between them, creating a moment that instantly changed the perception of this rivalry. And what makes the entire scene even bigger is the context surrounding it. Caitlin Clark was already sitting on the bench managing back tightness, Aaliyah Boston had rolled her ankle earlier in the game, and the Fever's physical identity was resting almost entirely on Cunningham's shoulders in that moment. Around the league, her role is seen as the enforcer, the player willing to absorb contact, defend teammates, and bring edge and toughness to a roster built around rising stars. So when she got hit, many Fever fans immediately viewed it as more than just a basketball collision, they saw it as a message. And Cunningham's reaction became an even louder response. The confrontation instantly transformed what should have been a forgettable preseason game into one of the most talked-about moments of the year, with fans already circling the rematch between Indiana and New York as must-watch television. Whether people see it as competitive fire, emotional frustration, or a warning shot fired between two championship-level teams, one thing is undeniable. This rivalry just became one of the most intense storylines in the entire WNBA. The entire basketball world is in complete meltdown after what happened between Sophie Cunningham and Breanna Stewart during what was supposed to be a quiet preseason matchup between the Indiana Fever and the New York Liberty, because the moment that shocking elbow landed, everything instantly changed from a simple exhibition game into one of the most explosive controversies the league has seen in years. Fans inside the arena could feel the atmosphere shift immediately after Cunningham hit the floor clutching her ribs while trainers rushed across the hardwood and both benches stood frozen trying to process what had just happened. What made the situation even more dramatic was that the play itself appeared completely unnecessary to many viewers watching the replay online, with slow-motion angles spreading across social media within minutes and millions of fans arguing that the contact looked intentional rather than accidental. But the real turning point came seconds later when Sophie Cunningham refused to stay down, ignored the trainers trying to escort her away, pushed herself back to her feet, and walked directly toward Stewart with visible anger while thousands of fans screamed in disbelief. There was no hesitation, no teammate fast enough to stop her, and no attempt to calm the situation before it escalated into one of the most intense face-to-face confrontations the WNBA has witnessed in recent memory. Cunningham got chest to chest with the two-time MVP, pointed directly at her, and unloaded every ounce of frustration in a moment that instantly transformed the entire power dynamic between these franchises. The footage exploded across the internet because many fans believed the officials completely mishandled the situation by calling only a common foul despite the violent reaction from both players and benches. Critics immediately blasted the league office for what they viewed as another example of inconsistency surrounding player safety, while supporters of Stewart argued that basketball is still a physical sport and emotions naturally boil over in heated matchups. At the center of the storm sat Caitlin Clark on the Indiana bench, watching the chaos unfold while dealing with her own injury concerns, which only added more fuel to the online debate because Fever fans felt the team was already vulnerable and emotionally charged before the collision even happened. Suddenly Sophie Cunningham was no longer just viewed as an emotional role player or an agitator, She became a symbol of toughness and protection for a fever team trying to establish a stronger identity around Clark and their young core. Meanwhile, Stewart's silence after the game only intensified speculation, with fans analyzing every replay, every body movement, and every post-game comment from coaches trying to determine whether the contact was simply competitive basketball or something much more deliberate. Even the post-game press conferences felt tense, especially when Stephanie White carefully avoided saying too much while clearly appearing furious beneath the surface, signaling that both organizations fully understand this rivalry has now crossed into a completely different territory. Now the entire league is bracing for the rematch because the next time Indiana and New York meet, every camera, every commentator, every fan, and every player in the building will be waiting for the exact moment Sophie Cunningham and Breanna Stewart come face to face again, knowing that whatever happens next could define the emotional tone of the entire WNBA season.